Racism and the topic of race seem to be very big and widespread here in America. We oftentimes cannot tackle any heavy subject without invoking race and adding it into the conversation. It's almost as if the discussion would be incomplete without it, as if there are gaps or blind spots in our discussion. When I first came to the US in 2001, at the age of 13, I found this approach both fascinating but confusing at the same time. Here we have so many people in one nation where there is a much higher level of tolerance and acceptance of different races, yet at the same time, so many people who complain about racism and its existence and prevalence. How do these people reconcile these glaring contradictions? What is the origin of such paranoia about this topic? These are only some of the questions I've asked myself in my 25 years living in the US. I've also been asked that as an Assyrian from Iraq, if I've ever experienced racism in the US. The reality is that I cannot honestly say that I experienced racism in the way it is oftentimes described. I've never had anyone call me a racial name and beat me up for it. Never been refused service at a restaurant because of my race. Never been denied loans or anything like that because of my race, and on and on. However, I have indeed experienced prejudice and stereotypes from those around me, but it was not from who people usually assume. It was not white people who showed a lot of prejudice towards me, though there weren't as many white kids in my school. It was mostly black and Latino students. This often doesn't fit the narrative the media and academia paint of racism, but in reality, this is probably more common than the way they formulate it. You see, we live in this narrative that only white people can be racist because they have more systemic power. Minorities cannot be racist since they lack systemic power, so the most they can be is prejudiced. But I ask, what exactly is the difference? It's like saying my Toyota Camry is a fast car because I can go 45 miles per hour, while my previous Honda is a slow car because it goes 44 miles per hour. The difference is negligible, yet I make such a big deal about the difference in their speeds and put them in completely different categories. This is not a good argument because it lacks clarity and fails to explain the motivation behind racism. Just simple and plain bigotry. Nothing more, nothing less. The reason why this conclusion is easier for me to reach, it's because when I was a teenager experiencing this is what I naturally concluded. I wasn't a sociologist who understood systemic structures to understand human behavior when it comes to race. I just looked at what was in front of me and made a conclusion. Something everyone can do until they're conditioned to rationalize away their reality to help them cope. On the whole, I still don't feel like I faced real racism in the United States because I wasn't denied any opportunities that are given to everyone, but which I wasn't given based on race alone. This might have happened sometimes, but I certainly wasn't aware of it. If anything, I've had times where my race was so important when it came to certain benefits I can receive, one of them being a scholarship. While it feels nice to get a scholarship because I belong to a certain race, it also feels disingenuous, like something I haven't really earned. Humans have a tendency not to value as much or at all things they know they haven't truly earned. This is how race-based benefits feel, almost like an insult to one's intelligence and ability. I'm not 100% against them, But if most or all of my funding was due to that factor alone, then it would be extremely embarrassing to me, and it would not remove the one thing that needs to be removed in order for me to be successful: my insecurity. The fact that I can only get a free ride because of my race would etch itself deep into my subconscious, constantly reminding me of my own perceived inability to do things meritocratically, since society assumes I'm a natural failure and hence need their pity. So, on the whole, I didn't really experience racism in the traditional or non traditional sense in the US. Maybe I was just not paying enough attention, but I don't feel like the US is a systematically racist society at its core. I do believe it is race obsessed in the sense that race seems to be given so much importance in general conversations and is constantly in the back of people's minds. However, that's not necessarily the same thing as people in the system being racist. I think there is a level of sensitivity among both whites and non whites that is quite irrational and, in my opinion, is impeding the progress of our country and each individual. We are letting a silly topic control our minds and put us in cultural amnesia. There's no use in constantly talking about it. Move on and become a better person through your own merits. It'll be far more fulfilling than just complaining and whining about how your race negatively affects you. So that's it for this video. If you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share to get notified about more videos like this one. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.